Welcome to the Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Today, we are live on the air from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., asking for your financial support and sharing the great work of various ministries, authors, speakers, clergy, and local radio hosts that impact our local Charlotte community. Carolina Catholic Media Network is 100% listener supported, and we need your financial support to continue broadcasting the truth of Jesus Christ. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909 to make your tax-deductible pledge. Operators are standing by right now to take your call, or you can donate online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. Thank you for your loyal listenership. We hope you enjoy this special Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon program.
And welcome back to the Carolina Catholic Media Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. My name is Jason Murphy. I'm the host of the Obligation radio show, airing on Fridays, and also the coordinator for the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas. I am joined by one of our previous speakers at the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas 2022. This past March, we had Keith Nestor there with us. Keith is the author of The Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism. He's a convert. He is has the Rosary Crew podcast. He broadcasts the Rosary throughout the country in his travels. Was actually praying the Rosary, at the men's conference there, broadcast live. And him and his wife Estelle joined us. It was great to have him. He has Down to Earth Ministry. Keith, sorry, this is all new. This is our first live broadcast here from Carolina Catholic Media, so appreciate you bearing with me and joining us. It's great to have you back.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man, we're trying to just raise funds here in Charlotte to continue having Carolina Catholic Media live and on the air, keep Catholic radio relevant here in Charlotte. We've just grown leaps and bounds over the past 3 years. We have a number of shows, more than many local Catholic radio stations across the country. Just wanted to get you on and, talk about what's going on with Down to Earth Ministry, the Rosary Crew, kind of update us and fill us in. What's been happening?
Wow. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be with you. And I certainly enjoyed my time in Charlotte at the men's conference. That was an absolute blast. And for Estelle and I, that conference in the beginning of March was the end of a little over a month long, we call it a Rosary Crew road trip, where we get in our RV and we drive around, and every day we stop in a different city to live stream the Rosary from different places with different people. And we've been praying the Rosary every day on my YouTube channel for over 2 years now. We started it March 18th, 2020. And this little prayer community has grown into thousands of people every day from all over the world. And when we were all still locked in our houses during the pandemic, it seemed like we decided we wanted to get back out into the world. And so we sold our business and we bought this Sprinter van RV, and we just take off and we go around and meet with people, and we had a blast. So we went down through Tennessee and Kentucky and Georgia and Florida, South Carolina, and then of course wound up with you there in Charlotte for the men's conference. Right. And after we finished there, we headed straight home, and we've been here working on lots of different things in the meantime, but it's been absolutely incredible.
No, that's great. I mean, you guys, pulled up in the RV. That was awesome. And then, saw you, we were trying to have you, coordinate to be able to lead the Rosary during the conference. We ran into a couple little time glitches there, but everyone saw you off there in the parking lot, had the laptop set up, praying the Rosary, broadcasting live from St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church, and that's just such a great ministry, and that really ties in what we're doing here. I mean, just focusing on the importance of Catholic media, right? Because that's the use of social media, using these tools that are there. Of course, they've also on the other side of the coin, our social media and cell phones and internet, just create a lot of negative things, but taking it and Catholicizing it and using it, it's just amazing. I mean, the people you've met on your journeys, though, right? Like, people host you as you're traveling. People that have prayed the Rosary said, "Hey, come over here, stay with us while you're traveling through North Carolina or Kentucky or whatever," right? And that,
yeah, Yeah, it's great because having the RV means that we're self-sufficient, so we don't require a lot. We like to travel on our light on our feet with that. So when I tell people that we're coming through, it doesn't cost any money. It's not a thing where it's a hassle to anybody. All we tell our so we have what we call road captains, which are people all across the country who have said, when you're coming through our area, we would like to host you. And what does it mean to host us? It means that you find us a place to pray, and then you tell people about it. That can be a church, that can be a city park, it can be somebody's backyard. We don't care. It just has to be a place where we can set up a little camera and a microphone. I mean, we prefer a quiet place, so it's easier to do that. But we've done this in city squares, and we've done it all over the place, and it's awesome. So we've seen this little network build up across the country, and we just love getting out there. Unfortunately, right now the price of fuel makes that difficult to travel
Yeah,
with the
that's
RV,
right.
but we're ready to go whenever the Lord opens that door again, and we have certainly enjoyed that.
I mean, it reminds me of a little group of Franciscans. I think they're actually based down in South Louisiana. Uh, Father Father Speedy, I think. I can't remember his first name. Father Speedy is his last name. From little Bayou country, kind of my town, my area there. I'm from Baton Rouge, so
Awesome.
he's further in South Louisiana. But they basically travel the country based. They hitchhike. They hitchhike, and
Wow.
and they rely on the goodness of others, kind of in the form of Saint Francis, leaving everything behind. There's some nuns and some monk or brothers, and they travel and they kind of live that life of Saint Francis. And I don't know, your book, The Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism. The first time I heard it, and I think I may have mentioned to you last time, that what pops in my head when I hear that is it just resounds because it's kind of a guide. Is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? And kind of a
Yeah.
British set of books that came out in the '70s. And I think they're I've been trying to figure out why that pops in my head, but it sounds like they're kind of related, like this Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism. It's like a guide for folks coming into the church, into all this new world, this new galaxy, and you've kind of put it all together, for folks, coming in, they've made the decision, and now here's some tools. Tell us a little bit about the Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism. I'm trying to tie it all together. I'm talking about the hitchhiking brothers, and I'm talking about the Convert's
Sure.
Guide. This guide through the galaxy of Catholicism.
Yeah, so I became a Catholic in 2017 after being a Protestant pastor for a little over 22 years. So I made the decision to become Catholic, which of course led to quitting my career and starting really a new life. And coming into the Catholic Church was an amazing experience for me. And I wanted to help people who were on that same journey. So after the first year after my conversion, I really felt like the Lord gave me the idea for this book. And I was never planning on writing a book, but it just kind of came to me one day. And I thought, okay, I need to write a book. There needs to be a book for people who have already made the decision. So it's not apologetics to try to convince people to become Catholic. And it's not a book about like the theological ideas in an abstract way about Catholicism. A lot of those things are already out there. But how about a book for people who have made the decision and now they're entering into this new world of the Catholic Church? There are a lot of things that are different when you come into the Catholic faith that people don't necessarily know to talk about. So, for example, how do you find a local church? When you're a Protestant, it's really easy. There's a lot of church marketing, and you just kind of bounce around until you find the right one, and you can pretty much look for a church that fits your preferences or style. There's something for everybody. In the Catholic Church, though, how does that work? Things like that. How do you know which devotions to take on? There can be this temptation to want to do everything all at
That's
once.
right.
I know I went through that when I
Yep,
became a
me
Catholic. I
too.
was like, oh, every time I turned around, somebody was handing me a new thing or telling me about a new book to read or a new saint to
Litanies
learn
and
about or a new
yeah,
devotional practice.
that's right.
And I quickly became overwhelmed with, what do I do with all this? I can't keep up with all of it. Well, what should you do in your first year? That was a powerful question that I wrestled with in this book, so that you don't just fold into this new world and go just ride the wave and go with the flow, but that you actually thrive as a new Catholic. What does it take to thrive in your first year as a Catholic. That was the driving force behind this book. But what it's been interesting, Jason, is I've talked to lots of cradle Catholics who have said that this book has helped them in their faith too, which is kind of an unintended benefit of it. I didn't really think that was going to happen, but I talked to more cradle Catholics who have said this has been extremely helpful for them for a variety of reasons. But really my goal was to help people make that transition. That's kind of been the focus of my ministry, has been helping people who are starting to become interested in Catholicism or who have already said, I want to become Catholic, or are new Catholics, help them in that experience of discovering this beautiful treasure that we have in our faith.
That's right. Yeah, once again, we are talking to Keith Nestor, author of Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism, founder of the Rosary Crew, and we are here together raising awareness for Carolina Catholic media, the fundraiser going on, our Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. You can make donations now. You can go online to www.carolinacatholicmedia.org. You can also call in to donate, and that number is 1-800-857-2909. All donations are tax deductible. The Share-A-Thon is running through June 24th. That's tomorrow through 6 p.m. So we appreciate everyone listening, and give a little, give a lot. We've got some gifts as well. But yeah, help keep Catholic media alive and well here in Charlotte and surrounding areas. So Keith, talking about that, it wasn't just you. I mean, you brought Estelle on as well, and this was a big switch. I mean, we're talking about, we've been talking a lot about leadership, and of course with the men's conference, trying to make sure men are leading their families, of course, in prayer and faith, and you guys were super involved in different evangelical ministries, and I mean this was a big jump, over, and your wife, she followed as well. So I mean, tell us a little bit about that kind of story, how that went, because I know you told us at the men's conference, how that conversation went, and I think it was very, very, very good to hear.
Well, she was a Catholic growing up.
Okay.
So she's from Philadelphia, so was raised in Catholic school, Catholic education. But when I met her, I was pretty, adverse to Catholicism. And I asked her, I said, are you a Christian? She says, well, I'm a Catholic. Does that count? And I said, well, I don't know, maybe. And she's like, well, I don't go to church. Yeah. And I said, okay, great. Come with me. So I brought her to this Protestant megachurch I was going to, and she loved it. She was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. I've been Catholic my whole life, and they never went to mass, but she did go to Catholic school. So for her, it was like, oh, this is cool. I want to do this. So she kind of left her Catholicism behind, and I, of course, encouraged it at the time. And, then we got married and started our family and ministry. And so it was quite a shock for her 20 some years later when I said, hey, guess what? I'm going to become Catholic. And I didn't say to her, you have to also, you can't do that. But I did say to her, this is what I'm doing. I know this is going to be a big shift. You need to decide what you want to do. If you want to stay Catholic or stay in the Protestant church or come with me. And she ultimately chose to come with me into the Catholic church. So for her, it was a reversion, but it wasn't at the beginning of it. It wasn't because she was feeling this incredible pull towards the Catholic faith. It was because she felt like that was her duty as a wife, was to follow and support me as her husband. So she kind of reluctantly agreed to go back to Catholicism. And it was tough, man. Like the first year she struggled with it. She did not want to be there. She was very sad because our kids, who were older at the time, they didn't connect with it. So our family was split up, and it was really difficult. And it was hard. And it was about a year later where she had her own, I would say, conversion experience to the Catholic faith, which interestingly enough happened during a confession that she went to. And it was powerful. And then after that experience, she has completely done a 180, and now she loves her Catholic faith and is excited about it. But it took some time for her to make that move. But originally out of what she felt was her responsibility as a wife, she went there. And what's interesting, Jason, is she didn't even realize it at the time, but what she was doing was a very Catholic thing to do, offering up her suffering as a sacrifice to the Lord. saying, I don't want necessarily to do this, but I believe this is what I should do. So I'm offering this to God as a sacrifice. And I think God rewarded her for that with an incredible experience. And now she loves it.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, it reminds me. I was driving in yesterday, and I was listening to a Christian radio network that happens to play. It's about the only station I can get between here and the coast sometimes. But they have some really good some ministers on there, and he was just talking about leadership, of course, by men, and our families. That's where it begins. The domestic church. If we can't even lead our domestic church, we're probably not going to be leaders in the church, as a whole. But he said, a good way to find out who, what a leader's made of is to see who's following. And I thought that just made a pretty good statement there. Who's following, and of course, we can have good leaders and bad leaders, of course, if we're not leading our family in the proper way, where's your family going? And of course, the last year's conference, the men's conference, was where are you going, Quo Vadis? And this year coming up is who are you looking for? Qui queris. So kind of that, transition. Now, okay, we've got you to identify, where are you going? Okay, well, we've kind of got a better idea. Now let's get specific. Who are you looking for? And of course, our Lord, qui queris. But yeah, it's we're called to so many different things, as fathers and husbands, as men, and that's beautiful. My wife is a convert she was brought up Baptist. And she basically, had told me, one point in time, many times, she would never become Catholic. And, we continued, and eventually she became Catholic, and not only became Catholic, became a teacher in a Catholic school. And, now we have, 6 children and raising them in the faith. And
praise the Lord. Yeah.
So it's beautiful. But it's tough. I talk to men all the time. I talk to guys, and it's really strange. Guys are starving. We're starving for leadership. We're starving for a good example, especially in our church. And even, even just like even an extension of our domestic church is our friends and our relatives. And conversations with guys, it seems, that I used to have, it'd be like, okay, let's just get together. Hey, what's going on? Here's what's going on in business. I had this problem or whatever. I'm finding, and I just made this kind of understanding, like, the conversations that I used to have with guys, and they were really quick because there's like we have so much other stuff going on. These 3 or 4 or 5 minute conversations where we just get to the point. I'm engaging guys like almost on a daily basis, and these are turning into 30 and 45-minute conversations because guys are struggling. We're craving for fellowship, and we're craving for assistance in this battle. We are in a battle, Keith. I mean, what do you see? I mean, how do you see? The guys that you see. I mean, I'm sure going into folks' homes. I mean, you're seeing a wide, diverse. Where are Catholics these days? I mean, we're in a tough spot, I think, with the practice of the faith, the understanding and the belief of the faith, the tenets of the faith. What are you seeing out there on the road? I'm just speaking from a local perspective.
Well, I see a lot of different things. I see a lot of people who are fighting hard for their families and fighting hard for their faith. And I see people who are seeing amazing things happen. But I also see people who are just trying to live the faith boldly and passionately. And sometimes it's in spite of things that happen in the church. And sometimes it's aided by things that happen in the church. I think the Catholic Church is such a large thing that you're going to have whatever you're looking for, you're going to find.
Yeah, that's right.
But what I would like to see more of are local parishes that find ways to equip, especially men, to become leaders and to be encouraged and to help one another. And that's so important because I do talk to a lot of people who have this great awakening about the Catholic faith, and then they join the Catholic Church, and then their experience of it is very different from what they read in books or what they saw on YouTube. And it's kind of like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be this way. And so I'm always, one of the things I do with people when I help them as they come into the church is prepare them for that. Look, being a Catholic is of course amazing and it's awesome, but there are a lot of things that you have to take responsibility for in your own personal faith journey. No one in the Catholic Church is going to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
And that can be a big eye opener, but I think it's ultimately a good thing because sometimes what can happen, and let's say, certain segments of the evangelical world, is there can be such out of a good place, I believe, out of a desire for evangelism and outreach. There can be this tendency to try to make things easy and do so many things to help people come into the faith. But then when they come into the faith, they're so dependent on other people doing everything for them that there can be this period of disenchantment when life gets hard or when their faith has elements of suffering with it. Whereas in the Catholic faith, everyone just goes, yeah, you're going to suffer and it's going to be difficult and you are going to have a hard time. And sometimes when you go to mass, it's not going to be this emotional experience that touches you deeply in yourself. So you have to take responsibility for what you're doing in there and how you're connecting with Christ and the sacraments. So I feel like preparing people and helping people walk that journey is so vitally important. And that's why I think Catholic media is so awesome, because even if you go to a parish where your priest is overwhelmed and overworked and doesn't have time to personally connect with everybody and doesn't have time to craft these amazingly outreach oriented ministries and catchy sermons and all that kind of stuff that they might have been used to in the Protestant world or whatever. When you turn on Catholic media, you're going to hear a lot of things that are geared toward that. I have a good friend, for example, who is extremely Protestant. Okay. He's a Reformed Baptist Calvinist guy. He's actually in seminary training for ministry. And he's, obviously not a fan of Catholicism, but he messaged me a couple of weeks ago and he starts asking me all these questions about the Catholic Church. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Well, it turns out there is a Catholic radio station there in his city, and he decided to start listening to it. And it's piqued his interest. And now I've seen this incredible shift from him where he's not challenging, like with, all right, well, why do Catholics do X, Y, Z, from a standpoint of like trying to convert me or whatever, which is never going to happen, back to Protestantism. But he's sort of becoming open. And a big part of that is because he's listening to Catholic radio where people are talking about these things. You're not going to find a local parish priest talking about typically the type of in-depth apologetic issues that are going to reach out to Protestants the way that you're going to find on Catholic media. But somebody needs to do it. So that's why I'm so thankful that's there, because that's really what helped me too. Wow. So I feel like it's this incredible partnership, because the Mass isn't about that. The Mass is about the sacraments. It's about the worship of God through the Eucharist and leading us in that. So I don't expect that to happen during Mass, obviously. But where's it going to happen? And that's where Catholic media comes in, I think, where we have the ability. I know on my YouTube channel I do things that would never happen in a parish, and that's great. And a parish does things that could never happen on my channel or my ministry. And I know you guys experience the same thing. And that's why it's so awesome that we are all working together on this. The Lord has called us to different things, which is one of the beautiful things of Catholicism is you have all these different religious communities, people that have different focuses. I mean, there are people, like you talk about the Franciscans, that they do things nobody else can do. They give up everything to walk the road of St. Francis, which is incredible. Yeah. And then you have other people who are in media. You have other people who are feeding kids. I just did an interview with Magnus McFarland, who runs Mary's Meals. They feed 2 million kids every day. Wow. There's so many amazing things. We do the rosary every day. I do a Bible study weekly called Unpacking the Mass, where we're going to walk through the readings for the upcoming Mass to help people come together. You guys do the obligation. There's so many things out there. So what we need is more prayer, more power, more resources, more people who are willing to live into whatever the Lord has for them in the church. And I think that it's an exciting thing, and it's an exciting time to be Catholic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Catholic media has really drawn me in to become more engaged. I mean, I've always kind of, been practicing and involved, with the Knights of Columbus and of course, the men's conference. But once my role kind of stepped in and I was invited to do some reflections and come on the radio a little bit, I wasn't even aware really that it was going on here in Charlotte. I mean, I'd heard of EWTN radio, but it wasn't something I was tuning into, and I would listen to local talk radio, political kind of things in Charlotte. And when I found out about it, I was a little hesitant, But now I'm so engaged. Like, I mean, I had nothing to do at the end of this week, and then kind of remembered we had the Share-A-Thon going on, and I'd kind of been out of loop with a few other things with work and with family, and so I was like, all right, well, let me put out a few feelers and just see if we can. Reach out to Keith, maybe, someone, we reach out to Dr. Ray Garundi, Father Colin Blatchford from Courage International. And I thought, I did my part. I'll send out my little emails. And all of a sudden, everybody responds back, and they're all back. Plus, on top of that, I'm doing my show, right after we're done today. So it's amazing. God will take us and use us. And I was joking with Bill earlier saying, God, he will use us and abuse us. I mean, he will. And that's all right. I'm there to be a victim, just like our Lord. So it's so important. But it's called me to become more engaged, because I can tell you, I'll be the first. I'm not a great reader. I can't. I try and read as much. I don't read a lot. I really don't read as much as I should. I do read a lot, probably through my phone or social media. But now, because I'm doing this show and I'm bringing guests on, I'm trying to prepare. I'm having to do a lot of research. And I'm having to dig into a lot of things, whether it's church politics or theology or whatever, canon law, that I haven't really looked at. So I'm just a testimony of that as well. Even from this side of the mic, but let alone all of the people out there listening, tuning in, and it's such a resource. And I'm real blessed to be here. And again, we're raising funds. It's the Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon for Carolina Catholic Media. Phone lines are open now. You can call in 1-800-857-2909 or go online and make that electronic donation, carolinacatholicmedia.org. All donations are tax deductible, and we're going through 6 p.m. tomorrow, June 24th. Coming up after Keith and I are finished, we're going to have a live episode of The Obligation, which, again, all new. This is all new, the first live episode of The Obligation, so we're excited about that. And again, sitting here with Keith Nestor, founder of Down to Earth Ministries and author of The Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism, and also leader of the Rosary Crew. So Keith, it's anything else we can cover, just bring awareness of folks out there might be listening right now and kind of hesitant, or maybe just finding this for the first time.
Well, I would say welcome to anybody who's dipping their toe in the world of Catholic media. There's amazing stuff out here. So welcome. Just continue to dig in and see what the Lord has. It's interesting. You go into a YouTube search or a Google search and just type in any question you have about Catholicism, and you're going to find some incredible answers. It's one of my favorite things about Catholicism is you can always find an answer. Sometimes the answer is that's a mystery or we're not sure, but there's so much. There's so many incredible things, because obviously the Catholic Church has been around since Jesus Christ founded it, and thousands and thousands and millions of incredible saints, men and women who have wrestled with the faith and grown so strong. So you are in an incredible place when the Lord starts to open your eyes to the beauty of Catholicism. So just continue to take that step and open your eyes to what the Lord would say to you through that. And I'm very thankful that he's done that for me. And I've been a Catholic now for 5 years. I'm just feel like I am just starting to scratch the surface of all the incredible things that God wants to share with me through the Catholic faith. And I love having the opportunity to share that with other people as well.
Yeah, Tim Staples, story, very similar to yours. He was one of the speakers at last year's conference, and he was dead set on disproving Catholicism. He, enrolled at Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, my hometown, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, back in the '80s, and he dove in and came out a Catholic.
Be careful. Be careful. It can happen.
That's right. Yeah. So it was great having Keith there, and Dr. Ray Garundi was there, and he's going to be on tomorrow. So, for those out there listening, tune in at 11 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to have Dr. Ray Garundi. He's going to be back with us, and like I said, Father Colin Blatchford, he is a priest of Courage International. Are you familiar with Courage, Keith?
I'm not.
So Courage ministers to Catholics with same-sex attraction. and provides ministry assistance to try to help them understand the faith and their role, what God is calling to them, and also the role of family members who may have be parents of someone with those attractions. And we're going to talk because we are as the world looks at it, we're in Pride Month, but we're going to talk about tomorrow with Father Blatchford from the Catholic perspective. We're going to be talking about the Sacred Heart, the Sacred Heart Month, because that's and then coming up, tomorrow we're on the vigil of the Sacred Heart, and as I said earlier, we can take and we can try to clump everything in together. We can look at social media and the internet and say it's corrupting and it's doing all these bad things, and yes, there are many bad things due to it. Or we can try and Catholicize it. We can get caught up in all that and that kind of that negative perspective, or we can take it and use it for the greater glory. And I was mentioning, before we came on to Bill, just saying how, there's so much in the world you would think that all hope is lost, and yet the most greatest evil in our world, in our time, abortion, potentially, maybe reversed as of tomorrow on the Feast of the Sacred Heart. Who knows? It may or not happen, and of course, but what in the world? You think the world is just done? You can just throw in the towel, and yet abortion. And then you look at many other things. You have heroic priests and heroic cardinals standing up and defending the Eucharist. Speaking of Archbishop Cordileone, against Nancy Pelosi and his stance on her reception of communion, while being such a pro-abortion advocate. So, all hope is not lost. Our Lord is always that last candle of hope that can relight the other candles of charity and faith. And well, man, it's been great talking to you, Keith. And once again, if folks want to learn more about your ministry, Down to Earth Ministry, and your books, because you've written some other books, right?
That's the first one. I'm writing a second one right now on the Mysteries of the Rosary that hopefully will be done in the very near future.
Well, if folks wanted to find out more, tell us how they can get to you.
Sure. So my website is downtoearthministry.org, and the 2 is the number 2. So down the number 2 earthministry.org. I'm most active on YouTube. I have 2 YouTube channels. I have one that's just called Keith Nestor, where I make lots of different videos about the Catholic faith. Our podcast, Unpacking the Mass, is also broadcast every week on YouTube. I also have a YouTube channel called The Rosary Crew with Keith Nestor, where we pray the Rosary every day at 5 p.m. Central live, and you're welcome to join in there. And I also have a podcast called Catholic Feedback. That's a monthly podcast. So we're pretty busy over here, but it's incredible. So you can find us in lots of different places. I'm on Instagram at Keith Nestor Catholic. And I love to travel and speak and come give talks at conferences and parishes. So if anybody's interested in that, and this is kind of cool, I'm leading a pilgrimage to Mexico City to go see the shrine of Our Lady Guadalupe in the Tilma there in January. So if you're interested in that, there's information on my website as well.
That's great. Well, Keith, thanks for joining us for the Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. And man, I will see you soon.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
All right, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, you got it, man. I hope it goes well for you guys.
All righty.
All right. Take care, man. God bless.
God bless.